Welcome to the Westport Library. Today's program will begin momentarily. Supported by Verso Studios, created locally and shared with the world.
Hi, I'm Carol Erger-Fass, exhibit curator here at the library, and I am thrilled to be celebrating the artist 5iveFingaz. People have asked how I first connected with 5, and if I remember it right, it comes down to two things. One is that we both live in South Norwalk, and the other is beer. A couple of years ago, when Space Cat Brewery opened in an old factory in South Norwalk, my husband and I were just so excited, and we had to check it out. And it's a great place if you haven't been there. Really cool design and dog-friendly. And there was this cool art studio right across the hall. And we just kind of wandered around, and we saw this cavernous space filled with art, and graffiti-based and raw, but with a positivity and a vision that you could just feel. And then I realized it was the same artist who created the Love More Than Ever, and also the giant love mural on East Avenue that I pass by every day. Since then, Art Monster Studio has blossomed, and 5 is realizing his dream of creating a self-funded, creative space that he hopes ignites the flames of imagination in artists of all kinds. It's a place where creativity is nurtured in people of all ages and abilities, with classes in cartooning and street art, DJing, and mural making. Not to mention the music performances and art openings, birthday parties, private events. And if that wasn't enough, he's forged strong relationships with the Norwalk community and beyond, visiting schools, painting street murals, and recently starting a new foundry on Wall Street called 5 a.m. Art Studio. But back to 5iveFingaz, the artist. Not lost in all of this is the training, the design experience, the innate artistic talent, and incredible vision that underpins this creative force. Don't let the spontaneity of his work, which looks so effortless, fool you. Those minimal gestures will all of a sudden turn into what looks like, what turns into some brilliantly rendered portraits, capturing the likenesses of like Keith Richards or Patti Smith, which, by the way, were both sold during VersoFest this past weekend, raising over $1,000 for the library. Thank you for that. And for everything else that you graciously agreed to collaborate on this month, from organizing the DJ and artists for the Get Loud, to teaching 2 sold-out graffiti workshops, and to masterminding the wildly popular interactive mural. I mean, how many people get to draw on the wall of the library? It was so much fun. And also, if you haven't tried it yet, I think you might have, you can ask the virtual 5 a question on the proto box. I learned a lot about him from that, like what his favorite color is, and how he got the name 5iveFingaz, but you'll have to ask him yourself. Special thanks go to Miggs Burroughs for hosting what I'm sure will be a great conversation, and to the library's art committee for being the best team ever. Also thanks to the library's media team for presenting and recording tonight's program, which will be available on the website in a few days. So thanks for coming and enjoy.
Comfy seats.
Welcome. Well, first, I want to thank Carol Erger-Fass and the library. Carol is the mama bear of the exhibits that happen here. She's responsible for the way they look and working with the artists. And she has an exhibits wrecking crew that makes it all happen. And but
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the intro was amazing. Thanks, Carol.
Yeah, what was your experience? Well, first of all, congratulations on the impact of your exhibit and the wall.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And the Get Loud evening, which was phenomenal.
Yeah. Still my voice is still recovering from that.
Oh, is it?
But,
Yeah. But what was your experience like? I mean, have you been in libraries before? Have you done it? I'm not
Once or
been in,
twice.
has your work been in libraries before? I'm sure you have.
No, I haven't. So my experience with libraries, I mean, growing up, same as everyone else's, like I did the summer book reading thing where, you're given a list and you have to read. From like doing that to bringing like my daughter and, to the library, but I never did anything quite like this in the library, especially the Get Loud, which was awesome and fantastic.
Well, actually, before we get deep into the slides, there's one little detour I want to take. So there is an app. There is a decibel. David, we're ready for the close-up here. Okay. So this is a decibel app. I wonder, now we don't have the 300 people we had at the Get Loud thing, but I wonder, so you can see down below, we're about 75 decibels here just talking.
Yeah.
Can you think you could rouse up this crowd to get us maybe to 100 or something?
Right now? You want to do it right now?
Try
Okay.
to see what
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get loud. Yeah, almost. Ah, close.
Hey!
A little bit more right there, yeah.
Okay.
I saw 105.
Excellent.
Sorry, everyone. It was working.
We'll talk about some slides and get back to others. This is on a loop, but I'm curious about this one. Your work, well, it's so phenomenal, and the messaging, the visual messaging, the verbal messaging, it's so positive, it's uplifting, inspirational. I mean, this has a lot of, these words are not, they're I don't know what you'd say, they're just words of doubt and hurt and whatnot.
Yeah.
What generated this?
So this was at a project in Westport, actually, that there were, it was a house that was being torn down. And the whole idea behind the concept was, it was brought on by Mad Labs that they hired me, they brought me on to do something on this house. So everybody was painting the house. And it was more of a therapeutic way where it was like, it was being torn down and kind of like, so it's almost like, you write negative things, everything that you want destroyed. So the concept of me taking over the garage was to paint everything you wanted to be kind of pulled out of you and like torn down with the house. So that was the concept there was, I use raccoons a lot and sometimes in my artwork was that this was being torn down. So, as opposed to writing positive phrases that were gonna be torn down, I wrote the negative ones, the negative feelings. And I reached out to a lot of people from all ages and, I got just words from them on social media. And so I used them in this piece. And, I thought that there was always a ray of hope. The color, the umbrella was always there to protect you. So kind of, that's what I used.
What is it about raccoons that appealed to you?
Just the nature of graffiti artists and being out at night, wearing masks.
Night dwellers.
So you wear a mask, yeah. So raccoons are always scavenging, and they're always out, out at nighttime, causing, good and no good, but still.
So are raccoons art monsters? I mean, is that where did that phrase, when did that phrase come to you?
Art monster?
Yeah.
So that kind of came to me more recently. That was like maybe 2 years ago. A good friend of mine that passed away, he on social media, like he would hit me up. He would always come to all my events, and we grew up together. So he saw my evolution coming into like art, because I came from the music world, but then I was DJing and it just came into, I was always an artist, but I would go back and forth, different mediums, different art. And so he would call me an art monster when he reached out to me. And he would just be like, yo, you an art monster, you an art monster. So when he passed away, it was around the same time he was supposed to perform at my opening, and he passed away right before, like a week before. So when I was in the process of naming it, that kind of came to me, and I was like, I'm just gonna call it like Art Monster, like an Art Monster's studio kind of thing. And that it was like an ode to him, kind of. So
and you have, but your background is so, well, part of it's from the box and part of it's from our talk when I went to your studio, but you could have gone, you know, if there's a parallel universe where two realities occur, you could have been an athlete, right?
Yeah,
You could have,
so...
What would be where would you be in your ideal thing? Would you be like in the NBA?
Oh, I'd be in the NBA if I had you know, my dad would say I'd be a New York Yankee, just because since I was 3 years old, he had me with a catcher's glove in baseball and batting, and I did well. And, you know, I didn't take up basketball till I was like in the 6th or 7th grade, but I did baseball mostly, but then my love was basketball, was baseball. I mean, basketball was Michael Jordan, was, you know, like that work ethic and just being who I could be, you know, on basketball. But I would definitely be in the NBA. My height says otherwise, but my heart was like 6'4".
But it was a teacher that, and it's interesting because we had an interview several months ago, and the woman, it was Claudia Mengel, and she actually brought her, was it high school teacher, I think, or art teacher that changed her life? And you have a teacher that's similar,
oh, yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah. It's a cool story and also funny, ends funny, but she was like, it was my high school art teacher, Miss Quinlan, and she would pull me aside and she was like, you know, you're an artist, but also you're like, you know, back then it was like you were a jock. You're always playing sports, and so it was like she didn't want me to go to like a Parsons or just an art dedicated school. She was like, you should go to like a college that has a good design program. And I told her my ambition was to be a starving artist. I just wanted to be a starving artist in New York City.
You want to be a starving artist?
I just wanted to be in New York City creating art, you know. I saw the Andy Warhol, I saw Basquiat, Keith Haring, and all these graffiti artists, and I just wanted to be there creating art. And 80s, I was too young for that, but 80s art aesthetic from New York City, graffiti everywhere, like, I love that, and I love it now, you know. So she tried to wrangle me in, and, you know, I'm wired now, I get wired now, but I was even more, you know, when I was 16, 17 years old. And she was like, why don't you do this thing called graphic design, and that way you can pay your bills, and then you can still paint afterwards, you know, at nighttime. So I followed her advice to a T, and I went to school for graphic design. And I became a painter much later. You know, I returned to painting after I graduated college much later in life, but I followed it to a T. And then I think it was maybe last year I found that I didn't know what happened to her. And then someone said, oh, she lives like in this neighborhood, which is like maybe right around the corner from me, Shorefront Park. And I was like, no, like I walk there all the time. So I told my wife, I was like, maybe one day I'll see her. And lo and behold, like maybe like 6 months ago, we were walking, and it was just like my heart stopped. I was like, there she is.
Really?
I was like, there she is. And it's just like watching from afar, but you don't want to be like a stalker. But I was just like, there she is. And my wife was like, oh, go say hi. But she was like, you know, like a good 30 feet into her yard. I didn't want to like just randomly walk into her yard. So like I kind of got her attention. I waved her over, and I was like, "It's Raph, you know, like it's me. Like, you know, I don't know if you remember me. You know, she's much older now." And she just gave me a pleasant like, "Hey, how you doing?" And then she went back to gardening, and I was like, "Oh, you meant so much to me, but you don't remember me." But it was her words that kind of touched me. You know, it kind of led me into the path I'm on.
Yeah, that's always amazing, you know, these little pivotal moments. Well, they're not little, but, you know, these pivotal, somebody outside sees your destiny that you can see.
Yeah.
And you were in marketing too, right?
Yeah.
And does that tie in? I mean, you're obviously do well marketing yourself, if you want to call it that. It sounds a little crass, but you do know how to present yourself.
Right. Yeah. Marketing has a big hand in that. I mean, I worked at an agency for 15 plus years, and in the agency world, I mean, you develop this little niche for like marketing brands and the lingo and the conversation of how to market yourself and brand yourself. And unfortunately, every artist, everyone's a brand, right? Especially with social media now, you have to be that kind of brand in order to make money off and market your art. So I took a lot of what I learned in that world and applied it to what I do, because again, like the 80s, 90s, you didn't really have social media, but now that you have social media, that's a good avenue to kind of brand yourself and market yourself, where it's like, the best branding you could do, and like what we told clients, was be authentic. So that doesn't hurt either, being authentic, right, and being yourself.
Now you have sort of a David and Goliath story with your Love More Than Ever, right?
Yeah. I developed this whole, to just go backwards, like I used to tag my name 5iveFingaz as a kid. It was like, that's the whole point of graffiti, is like you tag your name, it's you want to get your name out there. So you tag your name in the most ridiculous places where it brings people, and you see your name on a bridge, and people are like, how the hell did they get up there?
Yeah, really, that's really, can you answer that? That's been plaguing me for years. Every time I
and
go
it's
to New
actually,
York.
like, you look at ledges, and they're like 6 inches wide, that you're actually climbing out there to do that, just to get that reaction from people, but also to get your name out there, and people are just like, wow, like, I see that guy's name everywhere. And that's your own marketing and branding. So, as I got older, I found myself too old to get arrested for graffiti and vandalism. So what I started doing was I started tagging this phrase that I came up with when I was in Chicago, was Love More Than Ever. And that became my tag, because that was like promoting positivity. And, in my mind, I was like pushing love, which this message itself is such a deeper meaning. So I started tagging that. And then, like a year or two went by, and a friend of mine reached out and was like, hey, congratulations, I see your t-shirts are in Bob's in Boston, or Dick's Sporting Goods in Boston. Sorry, I don't want to get Bob's in trouble. And I was just like, cool, because sometimes I would do scavenger hunts, and I would put shirts in stores. So I was like, wait, I didn't do that. I would always have a note, though, so people couldn't get in trouble. Tried to. So it was just like, oh, cool. Maybe someone brought it up there and just left it in the store. But then she was like, check your Dick's Sporting Goods in Norwalk and see. So I went there, and I was just like, I didn't want to find it. I went with my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now, but I went in there like a madman, because I was looking for this. And when we got there, she zoomed in and she saw like the Reebok logo on there. And I was like, wait a minute. I was so confused, because it was a stencil, because whenever I would travel, I would bring Love More Than Ever stencils with me, and it would just be, wherever I put it. So I knew it was a stencil that I put somewhere. So we got there, and I didn't see it, and I walked out, and I was ready to walk out, and she was like, wait, let me see that. She was like, it looks like the kids section. So we went to the kids section, and lo and behold, like, they were right there, like a whole rack of the shirts. And like the first thing, as an artist, as a graffiti artist, as everything, like, is protecting your art. So, I was blinded. I just grabbed all the shirts. And I was just like, I'm walking out. Screw this. This is mine. Like, if I get arrested, I get arrested. So she's like, hold on. And then as, I go up to the counter with all the shirts, I'm just like, this is me. Like, this is who, like, I have a tattoo. I'm like, trying to prove to it was like a 16-year-old kid. And he was just like, dude, what? Like, I'm like, this is who I am. This is my movement. Like, what are you guys doing? And then, like, the manager came out, and he was like, sir, like, there's nothing we can do here. Like, this is a bigger issue. You have to contact corporate. So I didn't know what to do. I put a call out for lawyers, and a couple of them answered, and some were like charging a ridiculous amount. But, I knew I had to fight for this. If it was something smaller that I had done, scribbled on a napkin, I wouldn't have mine as much, but this was a movement.
And they used the visual, too. I mean, they didn't just, like, do it in a new font or anything.
No, they used a stencil. And to this day, we settled, and I can't disclose much, but I don't know where it came from. They didn't know where it came from, but, I'm sure they did. It could have you know, it could have been an intern that saw the image and took a picture and recreated it, or it could have been, you know, somebody else. But yeah, it was on T-shirts all over the country, and I was just like, what?
But it's yours now. I mean, it's rightfully yours.
Yeah. No, we settled, and I maintained the rights, and so you know, it's mine. It always will be mine. So.
Now, I'm a graphic artist as well, and of course I don't do freehand or tagging, but it may look like it sometimes. But you can see the slide that's there. But did you study typography? I mean, are you?
Yeah. So I mean, typography's always played a major role because. So how it started was I was probably 5 or 6 years old, learning ABCs, or no, I don't know what age you learn ABCs, but like. I knew my letters, I was learning letters, and I had 2 cousins. One was from the Bronx and one was from Brooklyn, and they came to my house. It was like, I think it was like, late spring or whatever, because I remember we were sitting on the front porch, and of my cousin who was older, much older, he was like, oh, like ABCs, like he introduced like graffiti to me, and he started making bubble letters with all the alphabet, and I was like, wait a minute. You can turn letters into artwork? Like, for me, it was mind-blown, because it was just like, he's adding shapes in there and like adding to each letter, and each letter is becoming, and like opened the whole world, because I was like, wait a minute, there's so many letters. I can make so many different images with all these letters. And I never went back, like it just stood out to me. And then that's how I got hooked on typography, because watching him make all these letters, plain letters that you see across the chalkboard or the whiteboard of A, B, C, D, upper, lowercase, into these fun shapes was amazing to me. So that's how I kind of got hooked with graffiti.
I know, even when I was learning about graphic design, it was a revelation to me that's I don't know where I thought letters came from, but even in classic letters like Times Roman, somebody drew all those shapes.
Exactly.
I don't know, I thought wherever they came from, out of the Bible or something. But,
yeah.
So, it's miraculous what you've done. But back to this question of tagging. There's their logo.
Before I snatched them.
And it's meant to look like kind of a print, like, because that extra
coloring.
It's a
stencil, yeah.
Like a stencil, spray on.
Yeah.
But how do you tag a bridge? Are you in a harness? I mean, do you lower yourself
down? No, you're out there. You take a gamble, for sure.
But I mean, how are you, I don't want to get in.
A raccoon. You're like a raccoon out there.
Sticky claws.
You're just like, you approach it like you own it, like in broad daylight. Like, I've put up some pieces where it's just like, you just act like you confident. You go there. Sometimes you wear a staff shirt or not, and you just walk in and you do it, and then you leave. And then the few people, there's that window where there's a few people that see it, but for the most part, people won't see it till later. They're just like, how did I get there? But there's a few people that see it happening.
Oh, I've never seen it. I mean, I've been down the Bruckner Boulevard and all that. Have you ever done subway cars way back in the day before they...
No, I wish. No? I wish I got there. But I was a little younger. But my cousins are the ones that did all that stuff like that really? In the Bronx. And subway carts,
here it is again. Here's the... there's...
Okay. Yeah.
There's the comparison.
That was like the next day, because I had to get it out there.
Basic rip-off. I mean, if there ever was one.
Yeah, I couldn't find the exact stencil because I didn't take pictures of every stencil, but it definitely got the stencil off the street somewhere.
So where did this positive attitude, any kid, we all have, there's so much to weigh on us as kids and even adults, to not make us the most Pollyanna people in the world. Where did this positive attitude come from? Is it a family thing, or was it a reaction against a family situation, or?
I don't know. I think I just came to a realization the other day when I forgot who I was talking to, but I think it started. Someone else asked me that recently, and I think it started with. Wait, are there words right there? Is that letters?
Yeah, those are letters. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Most people don't know. This is the first time I
just noticed it.
That's a soundproofing thing.
Yeah.
I forget what it's more. I forget,
Meat, something.
Yeah, it's a secret message up there in the soundproofing.
Take
yeah.
meat.
Make, what is it?
Oh, when this, yeah. Okay, sorry. I thought I was seeing things, but then I just,
No, you're
this
right.
is the first time I ever saw that.
It took me a while. Yeah.
Talking about fonts and stuff. What were you talking about? Sorry.
Oh, the positivity.
Oh, the positivity, yeah. So I felt like, as far as the calmness, I think it was from my grandmother. I remember specifically this one incident. I must have been like 6 or 7. She was babysitting my cousin and I, and I remember, like those fart noises you make with their arms, and my cousin started doing that, and we were eating at the coffee table in the living room because we wanted to watch cartoons, and he spilled over his cereal. And then, I did it first, and then he mimicked me, copied me, and then he did it too. After she finished cleaning mine up, and she laughed, and she was she just laughed at it, and she just cleaned it up, and she was just I think she was just happy to be in that moment with her grandchildren. And I remember seeing that, and it could have been just expecting a different reaction, that she was just so calm and positive that that particular moment I remember for the rest of my life, because she was just, I've never, seen someone react that way, especially to two little knuckleheads doing it back to back. After she just finished cleaning one, then she had to go back. But her reaction, and then served us again, had the nerve to serve us cereal again. And I remember sticking out. We were at the kitchen, at the coffee table at my parents' house, and I remember just as I got a little bit older, being whenever something like that happens, I know there's that whole spill milk metaphor kind of thing that kind of applies to that, but there's no use crying over it. Was I'm just gonna chill. Whenever something comes my way that I can't understand or is just too much, I'm just gonna just wipe it, like my grandmother did, and just kind of just apply it, So I've been chill, and it's funny because a lot of people think it's just I smoke a lot of pot. Because growing up, they're just like, "You high right now?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. It's just I'm super chill."
But when we talked, but you did say you did have issues with, insomnia, right, and other things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Painting, but that was kind of your meditation.
Yeah. So then once I finished college, you get into the real world. You face that little gap of
uncertainty.
I love that.
Yeah,
pose.
tell me about the.
It's a pose. No, I'll go back to that for a second. It was just, I don't know if you ever saw this meme. It said any album with the artist like Michael Jackson, Thriller, that lays like that across his album cover is a hit. So that was kind of my take on it. Because I was like, I want this book to be a hit. So I kind of did it because of that meme.
Oh, okay.
I was copying Thriller. Again.
Where we were. The painting as a meditation, your meditation.
Yeah. So then, as a meditation, it was just, you get out of college and it's just you're hit with all this stuff. I faced it twice, right? It was when you're 16, 17, my guidance counselor brought me in and was like, "What do you want to do? What do you want to be?" Because you have to pick something, supposedly. And I'm just I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. Let alone for the rest of my life. So that gave me this level of anxiety I couldn't handle, where I just didn't even pick a college because I broke down. I was just I don't know what to do next. So I figured I'd go to NCC, which is an awesome school now. It was back then too. But then it was once you finish college, and now it's now what? You got to get a job. The real world's calling. And I had a young daughter at the time. So, I jumped into the marketing world, and I finally got a job. And it consumes you, marketing agency world and being creative constantly and brainstorm. You get to have 2, 3, 4 brainstorms in a day. And by the end of the day, you're I don't want to go home and paint. The last thing I want to do is be creative. I just want to shut down. So I was in that world for 10 years, and I was shut down. And I was I don't want to paint. I don't want to do it. I didn't touch a paintbrush for 10 years. My first daughter growing up, I would draw every once in a while, but I barely ever painted because I didn't, it was just that mental of block of being creative every day at work. So then eventually, like, I think it was 2014, 15, like, I went to this art show at the Lower East Side, and it was a band that I became friendly with. It was two sisters, Coco Rosie, and I did a abstract painting of it, and I brought it in, and I was like, I'm just gonna hang it on the wall. So I took it, you know, I had this thing wrapped, and there was like a bunch of B-list celebrities in that art show, and I went in, and, you know, I drank a couple glasses of champagne to get a little liquid courage, and I just hung it up. And I walked out, and then I was just like, well, let me go back and see it. And then, like, you know, I just left, and I left the hashtag, and then they reached out, and I thought I was gonna get arrested, and it became a whole thing. And then they invited me back to the official opening. So that's when I saw, like, a yogi in there, and she was just like, I talked to her, and I said, I'm having these issues with anxiety, with insomnia. I can't sleep. I can't, you know, I can't think straight. Like, you know. So she was just like, your meditation is painting. Just paint. And then, like, I took those words literally, and I haven't stopped painting since. And it's been the most beautiful thing where that's my, you know, it became like a diary, hence why I used a lot of words, and it just became like a diary of mine where I was just getting all my thoughts out. And then I started sleeping better, and my health got better, and it was just, for me, and it was like a lifesaver. Oh,
I love the comparison as a diary. But and in that vein, because I don't mean to get dark, but you must. Is there a closet somewhere where there's a lot of angry paintings that nobody will ever see?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think when I first started just painting was getting all that out. It was like almost like a block that I had, a mental block, where it was getting all the dark stuff out first. Where it was just like, you know, just thoughts about just being blocked about anxiety, constant anxiety, where I think it was like that, those 2-3 years, like, my daughter would come home from school and she'd be like, you okay? Because it was just like darker paintings, like doll parts, and like, you know, all these random, like, dark sayings that I had in that I think was just getting out. But then also those same paintings related to a lot of people, you know, and a lot of people would write me and they're like, the words, like, related to me. They touched me, you know, because it was like a darker space I was in. But yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay, well, that's powerful. But they don't, I mean, it's part of your past. I mean, you've, like a diary, you turn the page and you're on.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And then I still have some paintings that are just like, you know, there's a few in there that it's just like, do I know who I am? Like, doubts that everyone faces in their life. And you know, there's always that, you know, the complex you have about either being successful or too successful or not successful enough, or am I doing enough? So it's just human, like, just human emotions that I feel that I just put down, you know?
I think that's what's so relatable about your work, is that it's so authentically, you know, emotional and thoughtful.
Yeah.
So what about this? Is this is a book, or?
So no, I wrote this book. I used it, a lot of the paintings that I did, again, have words in them and they have lessons to them. So I packaged this up and I said, you know, maybe I should make a book. Not necessarily a children's book, just like a book.
But it's a story, or is there pictures in it?
Yeah, there's pictures and there's a story.
Oh, okay.
So growing up, a lot of heroes of mine were Mr. Rogers, Dr. Seuss, LeVar Burton, like Bob Ross, kind of, you know. So I wanted to you know, put this book together of a story kind of that's me, like, in high school. You know, like, I had the big, I mean, I still have the big hair. That's why I wear hats, because I hate doing it. But it's like, you know, I just put it together in a story format, but there was emotional lessons along the way. And so I wrote it the first time. It was just a plain story. And then I remember waking up one night and being like, you know, I love Dr. Seuss. I love Shakespeare. I love rhyming. I love, you know, iambic pentameter. I love all those rhyming schemes. So, you know, and being like, you know, I used to rap back in my day, like, rhymer. I was like, I have to go back. I have to rewrite this thing so it rhymes. And, you know, nowadays you could put ChatGPT probably can help you do that, but I wouldn't do that. But I went back and I just changed everything up, and I changed it to a rhyming pattern to kind of like give a little shout out to Dr. Seuss and that whole scheme. So I don't call it necessarily a children's book. I just call it a book that you can have.
And is it available through you or through?
Yeah, through my website. I had it on Amazon for a little bit, but I didn't like, the percentages that were taken, and, so I just kept it old school way, like when we used to sell mixtapes and whatever. We used to do, sell like mixed CDs, mixtapes out of the trunk of your car. I kind of kept that same thing where I just sell it on my websites. And this was like around the whole Reebok thing, so I was very protective of just having my stuff out there.
So briefly, in a few minutes we have left before we take questions, so this part of the Get Loud thing there was DJs up here, and you teach, in your studio, you have a stage almost, like this, a little smaller, but where you teach DJ.
Yep.
What is the essence, what makes a good DJ? I mean, yeah, if I came to you and said, I want to be the oldest DJ in the world.
So I think of DJing.
What would you?
We don't see age there. If the thing is, some people don't understand. There's different levels, different skills of DJing. Almost like learning an instrument. So you have like people that just want to play music. You have enthusiasts. You have realists. You have people that have been doing it for so long that they're ingrained in the old school ways of DJing. So it's about finding the person and finding what they want to do. So if you're like, hey, I just want to play songs from whatever era, 80s, then you find, there's scratching, there's, all kinds of things where I learned battle DJing, which was like me against you. And it was like scratching and doing tricks. That's what I loved. I loved doing that, And then you have blending DJs that go from one song to another. And then before you know, you're 20 minutes in, and you're like, I don't even remember when that first song ended, because it just went in from, without seamless, without being. So we teach a little bit of all that. And Dale, who's put together like a whole curriculum of it, kind of goes into that, where now we're doing digital DJ, where most kids and most people start that way, or as opposed to when we learned was just all analog, all wax, all records. You didn't have a laptop. There was no laptop there. It was like sound, like you had to know the BPMs, you had to know by ear. So a lot of the DJs that were here learned that way. There were probably 3 or 4 that were all just started with digital, but like for the most part, there was a lot of DJs like it's almost having an ear, a music to the, an ear for the music, and knowing BPMs and knowing when drums hit and knowing when snares and knowing where to scratch and blending. So it's a more complicated than just like, hey, what do you want to learn? You want to learn DJ? Some people just think it's like scratching. They just go up there and they just do this. And it's just,
back and forth.
Yeah, which my first party, that's all I did, was scratching. And they were just like, can we dance? So I would have to like let the music play. And then I would sit there for 3 minutes listening to music and watching people dance. And then I would have to switch songs into another. And I'm like, I don't like this style of DJing. I have to watch people dance while I just play music. But, there's different ways of learning.
So there's still hope for me, right?
Yeah, there's plenty of hope.
Well, thank you. I think we're going to open it up to questions.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody? Ideally, you will go up to that white background, so because this is being videotaped, so you'll be on. So yeah, just go up there and talk in that microphone, please. Yep. And we can, that way we can all hear you, and it'll be on video.
There you are.
Hi. We spoke for a few minutes before the talk, talking about the quote from Banksy.
Yeah.
If graffiti were dangerous, it would be illegal.
Yep.
I'd love to know what your take is on the societal role of graffiti in truth-telling and in covert news, that context of its role it plays.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love that quote. When we talked, I love that quote. I love the whole aspect of graffiti is to be rebellious and to kind of get what you mean to say out there, right? So you can either tag your name or you can start being more political with it. And it's true what he said, because what you want to do is it goes back to rebellion and being rebellious and fighting for your right and understanding this. So that's the essence of graffiti from day one, was to, I'm gonna put my art here. I don't care what you say. It was to buck the system. So I'm all for that, and I love that approach because it's truth. You know, you have your truth. Everyone has their truth. Some are more willing to say it, vocalize it, politicians, what have you, civil rights leaders, and you vocalize it. But then for a graffiti artist to get it out there and have truth in public display is even more powerful sometimes, because you see it, you don't know the person, you don't know who wrote it, as opposed to, say, if it's not Banksy, but you write these almost like psalms. They're almost like psalms, and they're just like writing hieroglyphics on the wall that who knows, like the hieroglyphics probably were protesting something that we don't even understand because we can't understand that. But it's almost the same kind of thing where it's like politicians will ride by and see that and it's like, holy crap, like it's the same thing, with any artist. I'd put up stencils for supporting local art, and it made it to the paper because it was just bucking some sort of system that was hindering, a local arts program that they withdrew funds. So that's your voice. Some people have a voice that can vocalize it, and other people, especially from the inner cities, don't have that voice. So that this is a way of getting it out there and hoping people take, and that's taken off in social media, because now someone from across the world can post this and it applies to their situation in another country, so. Yeah, no problem.
Anybody else? Yes. Yeah, please. We can't hear. Okay, if you can yell loud enough, and I'll repeat the question.
I just wondered, are there any videos when you do portraits and you use your hands?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Doing portraits with your, is that what you said?
Yeah,
Doing
portrait with the hands.
Portraits with your hands, okay.
Yeah, so.
Are there videos of you working?
Oh yeah, they're on TikTok. Oh, I don't think he has any. I didn't send any videos.
No, there's no videos on here. But.
Yeah. So that became, when I went to school, I can also draw and I can paint. So, in school, they're going to try to find what you're good at. And, graffiti, unfortunately, wasn't like, hey, a major. So I went for fine art, and I also went for just graphic design. So when they found out, like, I did portrait paintings, I could draw models, I could draw still lifes, I trained in that. So I became a portrait artist, and I started doing portrait paintings, and it was fun, but also kind of, it got boring to me, because I was just like, I could just easily take a picture. But that's me, And I was like, I could just take a picture of it instead of painting hours and hours and hours and getting it right. And then I also was doing something to my brain where I was like, I couldn't put the brush down because it was never, all right, now I gotta come back and touch it. I gotta touch it up. Especially with oil paints. All right, now I gotta touch it up. I gotta fix the eye. I gotta do this. So what I started doing was I started reversing the image. Like, I would get black and white pictures and I would paint portraits. But like this was all done in the basement of my house during COVID. So I would do that as a warm up to another one of my paintings, or like a graffiti piece or a mural that I was planning. So that's how I got started. And I think one day you have to feed the algorithm of TikTok, and it was like maybe a month into COVID. And so I went downstairs and I started doing this as a warm up. So I forgot who I did first. It might've been Audrey Hepburn or someone. And I painted her just as a warm up kind of thing. And I filmed it. And then I had nothing to post. So I said, you know what, I'm just gonna post this video. So I posted that video, and it gained a little traction. And then I did another one, because I was new to TikTok at the time, and comments were coming in. And I asked my daughter, I was like, is this normal? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to, like, I knew social media, but I didn't know. I thought TikTok was just for dancing. I didn't know. So I posted it, and then I was just like, oh, that's cool. It came back, had 1,000 followers. And then I posted another one, and I forgot who that was. It might have been Paul Walker or somebody. And that instantly went viral. Like, it was just like, holy crap. Like, the numbers just started going up, and like requests started coming in. I was getting 1,000 requests by the 6th week of me posting these videos. I was getting like 1,000 requests a week to paint either celebrities, dead cats, dead grandmothers, uncles, just someone's random uncle or someone's random aunt because they wanted it for a birthday party. So it became too much, where it was like, I had fun with it at the beginning, and I still do. Like, I post a video here and there, but I won't do it as much, just because then there was some TikTok guru guy, art guru, that kind of started, he was kind of critiquing different artists on TikTok, and mine came up, and he was like, oh, well, he's just painting the celebrities or musicians. And I took it personal because I was like, that's not what my art is. I did that for warm-ups and it just took off. That's like one part of my art world. So, I got pissed off, and then I kind of kept doing it just to spite him. And then I kind of slowly dwindled off of that and went back to my style. And, I've lost, I'm not getting likes and all that, but I'm happy with that. I was getting stressed because it was like I was doing maybe 3 or 4 portraits and when I was deep into it, like a day. So I have bins. I have like 6 bins of like those big gallon ones and these are done on construction, like just craft paper that are super thin. So if I fold them, they're all stuffed and it's heavy. And I have like 5 or 6 bins of those paintings that I'm gonna leave to my kids at one point. But it became work, and I didn't like it anymore. But the paintings themselves, I love doing it. But it became someone else's. The more I did it, then I had to feed the algorithm of getting it out there. But I love it. I love doing it, especially like when it's someone local, or unfortunately someone loses a child or someone loses someone loved. And if I can help out that way, I always post it. If it's like to bring attention to a cause, then I'll do it, and I'll donate it to the family.
Nice. Anybody else? Last call? Well, that was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.